the more we know about ourselves, the more we can manage those mental health well-being spaces in ways that work for us as individuals, and it will be different for each individual.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Shift with Shubha. I'm your host, Shubha Manetti, and I am an adult and child sleep consultant. I'm also a baby science program instructor and an Akashic light healing practitioner. And on today's episode of Shift with Shubha, we are really digging into a conversation on what nourishes the mind, I think, and inadvertently or indirectly, sorry, it also nourishes the body and the soul. So we're going to be in conversation with Beth Goddard. And Beth is, as she probably describes it, is that she's one of many things. And she is for the purpose of this conversation on this podcast, she is a facilitator for a new personality test that has come on the market called Lumina Sparks. Now, it's not that new. If you've heard of Myers-Briggs, if you've heard of 16 personalities, then Lumina Sparks is amongst in the same field of those. And it's a particular interesting one because Lumina Sparks looks at 24 different personality traits, I think is what she mentioned. But don't quote me on that. She'll be the right person to hear about it from. So Beth and I we go way back. She says 20 years. I think it's more about 15 years, but who's counting? My math is not that great anyway. But we've known each other for such a long time, and I'm very excited for the work that she's doing. She's been helping so many people using this tool of Lumina Sparks to maximize their potential and basically bringing out the leaders within themselves to the forefront to then make an impact in the world and hopefully make an impact in the future of a better tomorrow. So I know that might sound all fluff at the moment, and you're sitting there going, what are you talking about, Shubha? I promise you that if you tune in for today's episode, you will leave a lot more refreshed on understanding, how your personality, how understanding facets of your personality might just help make your life better, because it will help you understand how to interact with the world around you better and therefore make your life better. And if all of that's confusing and you're just going, I don't understand, then I ask you very much to tune into this episode, and I hope you enjoy it and the content that we present today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Do like, share, subscribe to our channel. Definitely share this episode with people that you think might benefit from them. And write to us if you have ideas, suggestions. If you want us to have these kind of conversations more, then please let us know. We always like to know on which trajectory or which path that we should be exploring further. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. So Beth, obviously you've known me for such a long time, and throughout the years that we've obviously known each other, you've gone through many different chapters of work. And I think just obviously for the audience sake, maybe just explaining what is it that you do now. And maybe because I sort of explained that Lumina Sparks is a personality test, but I think it's a lot more than that. So I think you'd be a better person to probably explain what you do and what is Lumina Sparks.
Well, that's a great question to kick off with, and you're right. I have known you a very long time. I was thinking about that the other day, going, "Oh my goodness, this is almost a 20-year friendship." Realistic, well, maybe 18 years. It was just after I graduated that I started working at Rose Bruford. What do I do? That is a question that many, many, many people ask me. And this might be quite unsatisfactory, but I'm still not sure what it is. Because what I help people with is really getting to know who they are, what they're about, what the blockages in their life are, and how they can create a new future, the one that they actually want to see exist in the world. And I suppose how I do that is through a variety of different things. I facilitate, so I help people become better leaders within their workplace. I coach, so I do lots of one-to-one work, which is really about identifying, well, what is the goal that you're trying to achieve, and what is it, what are the things that are preventing you from achieving that thing. But in terms of Luminous Spark, it's a psychometric test, so it's a personality profiling test. I found it, if you like, quite serendipitously. It fell into my path, and me being me, the curious, explorative, life explorer, went, oh yeah, I'll do this. I don't know what it is, but I'll do it. And my experience of Luminous Spark presented me with blind spots in my behavior that, as soon as I saw it on paper, helped me to go, okay, now I can see where I can change things about what I'm doing that are going to quite radically transform what I'm doing in my life, both career and personal. And so I went through a process of engaging with the psychometric tool, the personality profiling tool, helped me to get to know myself better and make some changes. And the impact was so profound for me as an individual that it was a case of, I need to train in this particular system, because actually it has a depth to it and a nuance to it, and it's colorful and it's vibrant and it's data driven, that will enable me to amplify what I'm doing with people anyway, and really help them get to grips with who they are as a person, what their natural preferences are in terms of behaviors. Some people are very outcome driven, some people are very people driven, some people like the vision, the future, what's possible, and some people like, well, what's in the here and now. And so I don't know whether that answers your question
It does. No, it absolutely.
Accurately, that's the wrong word, but what do? I help people be the best version of themselves with a variety of different tools to do that.
And I mean, I think you already kind of brought a little bit into it, but you were talking about the visionary, the people who like it here and now. So how do you, I mean, the fact that you said when you did it, it caused some profound changes in your life. What do
Yeah.
you think is the benefit of someone doing a Lumina Spark thing? And can you break down what are the types of assessment areas it's sort of looking at, and why would someone be interested in looking at those aspects?
There were a lot of questions in that one question.
There was.
So let's step that back a second. Do you know what? You're going to have to break that question down a little bit more.
Yeah.
What is it that you want to know?
Okay, maybe we start with the components of the Lumina Spark itself, right? So what is it assessing?
It's assessing your personality. So it's assessing 24 qualities. Those qualities, are far ranging. So it could be anything from introverted to extroverted, big picture thinking to down to earth, discipline driven to inspiration driven, people focused to outcome focused. And there are 24 qualities. I'm doing this because it sits in a mandala. It's circular. It's looking at the whole personality rather than putting you in a box. So quite a lot of psychometrics and personality profiling systems, they put you into a box, they label you. So you are either introverted or extroverted. The Luminous Spark system doesn't do that. It's far more nuanced. It's got a real 3D-ness to it. There's complexity. It looks at how we can embrace paradox. So for example, on this system, I claim quite high on both extroverted and introverted.
Okay.
And for a long time, I really struggled with that because it was like, I enjoy being with lots of people. I charge up on energy of conversations. I'm quite sociable. I like to go and, have lots of interactive conversation to, one, charge up on energy, but also, stimulate my brain.
Yeah.
Love it. But also, I quite like my own company. I quite like going and sitting in a coffee shop on my own, reading a book, thinking. And prior to doing Luminous Spark, I used to be really conflicted about those two things because it's like, how can I be both and oh my God, I feel really bad about saying no to those people who've asked me out for a drink. I don't want to go out for a drink. I want to sit and watch, rubbish TV and just be in my own company. Oh, now I need to go and, have a night on dancing and engaging or being with a big group of people to just get stimulated. And once I'd been through the Lumina Spark system and I could see very visually that I spread across the mandala in both of these aspects, it was like, oh, okay. I'm just both. I don't need to be in conflict with these two things. I can just go, right, today, actually what I need is to go and have a conversation with the lovely Shubra. But tomorrow it might be that I just want to shut the world away and go for a walk along the canal. I live quite near the canal, and just be in my own thoughts. And both of those things are
okay.
absolutely fine. So in answer to your question about, why is a system like this really valuable? I can speak personally. For me, it gave me the permission to be myself.
Yeah.
It removed any of that internal chatter, that internal mind talk of I should be doing this or I should be doing that, or oh my goodness, I'm flawed because I don't like looking at spreadsheets. In the system, I don't have a lot of the quality evidence based or cautious or reliable, which is looking at the reality, the data of things. What I do have is a lot of spontaneity, of dreaming, of imagination, and just the permission to go, that's who I am. That is really valuable. But so is that other stuff that I don't have. So who are the people around me that I can go and get really pally with that support me in that space?
Yeah.
So yeah, the value for me as an individual has been the permission to be myself and to really get quite an in-depth look at some of the qualities and the behaviors that are naturally mine, and some of those areas which are not so natural to me, and how I might mitigate for some of those gaps, if you like. And for other people, I've probably facilitated over the last couple of years 250, 300 people
Wow.
now,
Yeah.
both in groups and in individual settings. And without fail, I've in fact, no, not without fail, I've had two people of all of those that have been through the experience. I've had two people where it didn't connect.
Right.
That's fine. It's not going to connect with everybody. It's a tool. It's a system. But 98% have gone, oh my God, and found a little piece of gold dust or a nugget, that an insight that's actually been useful to them moving forward. And for me as a practitioner, that's what I live for. I want to find those little light bulbs and turn on the light for people so that they can go, oh, okay, I'm more of myself. And if I'm more of myself in the world, then actually I make more impact in the world, and I don't need to hide.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite a lot of words. Sorry.
No, that's no apologies necessary, because I think we should really dive into that, because I think I really like to touch upon why would it be so why would those people, or the people that you facilitate, when they get those sort of like aha moments, as you said, it gives them permission to be more themselves. What's the advantage of doing that?
Okay, it's a great question. And I'm putting on my Lumina hat already, because the Luminous system, I'm going to do that. It's like a pyramid. And if we think of it as 4 building blocks, so the first block is self-knowledge. So the more we understand about ourselves, the more we can manage our behaviors and almost create a pause before we respond to things. So, for example, I had a particularly difficult working relationship in one of my previous roles, and my behavior at times used to be triggered, I suppose is the best way. It was unhelpful behavior. And it was a really challenging working relationship because I was expecting this person to be more like me, and
Yeah.
they weren't. They were looking at the world through a completely different set of eyes, a different perspective. And I hadn't done Lumina at this time when I was in this particular working relationship, but as I've reflected on it, I've gone, if I'd have known more about myself at that moment and what was triggering me and what I found particularly challenging about that relationship, I might have chosen to do things differently just because I had that insight about myself. So that's the first block of the Luminous system.
Okay.
The second block, so once we've really got a fuller understanding of who we are, we can then better embrace diversity and the fact that other people might look at the world through a completely different lens. So if you think about, the optical illusion where you've got the image of the young woman and the old woman.
Yeah.
Have you seen that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I use that in group facilitation for Lumina because it's a brilliant way to illustrate the fact that we're looking at the same image, but some people will automatically see the young woman. Some people will automatically see the old woman, and some people will see both. They can
Yeah.
hold that paradox. There are two things there. And it's a wonderful way to illustrate the fact that we look at the world in the same way.
Yeah.
I might look at it from a visionary perspective, what's possible in the future from a conceptual, radical, imaginative, dream big, we can change things. And somebody else, I'm thinking of this particular colleague that I had a difficult relationship with, they were very stats, systems, processes, real detail orientated. And we were looking at the same thing, but from completely different ends of the spectrum. And I didn't have at that moment in time a full comprehension of the dynamics between me and this particular individual. But had I really, really understood myself and where he might sit in this mandala, it might have changed our relationship. So coming back to the four um, stages, you've got self-knowledge at the bottom, then embracing diversity. So if we think about the fact that people can look at the world through a different perspective that's not the same as ours, but
Yeah.
there is value in that, it becomes much easier to move to the third layer, which is building rapport.
Yeah.
So creating connection, communication, understanding, tolerance, that we're just looking at the world in a different way, but there's value in that. And if we build rapport with the people who aren't like us, the top little bit is we can co-create results. So, we started this conversation and you said, I've got somebody else to do the words, somebody else writes the words for you. It's not your preference. You prefer to speak. Great. But you understand the value of the fact that somebody else can do the words, which is the bit that you don't want to do or don't like to do or whatever the rationale and the reason is. But there's value in both.
Yeah.
And so to conclude my answer of your question, that's the value of really getting to understand ourselves. Because if we understand ourselves and where we sit within the world and how we look at it, then we can better understand how other people might view the world and embrace those differences.
Yeah.
Then we can build rapport, then we can co-create results.
Yeah,
So
this is because then you could do this in every faction of life, right? Whether you are working with people, whether you're in a marriage or partnership, whether with your children who are slightly grown already, or a little bit older than 5, and they can actually have conversations in a way back and forth with you, or even 3-year-olds have a conversation with you. But they might be a bit too young to do the psychometric testing. So I think that my next question really is, because I know that you have worked with a lot of young people, when do you think Lumina works in terms of starting these type of tests?
Yeah. That's also a really interesting question, because I had a conversation asking the same question with Stuart Desson, who is the founder of Lumina Spark. So he's been working in business psychology for the last 25 years. He has a PhD. The Luminous system was effectively his PhD. So he's really versed with personality, psychometrics. And we talked about the fact that, we're still growing as individuals, our personalities kind of fully form in the latter stages of teenage years.
Yeah.
That's where we really begin to get that sense of I, that not ego necessarily, but that sense of I, here's who I am.
Yeah.
um the youngest person I believe to do Lumina, but I'll have to double check this, was 16. I've used it with 17 to 18-year-olds. When I've worked with younger people using the system, it's been a case of you are still changing, and this might give you some insight
Yeah.
as to your natural preferences. I'll give you a prime example. It was textbook. So I did a facilitated workshop with 30-ish young people. No, it was about 15 young people, this one, doing some training, really helping them to understand within a work context, what their behaviors might look like. And I had a young man, and he claimed 99% demonstrative, which sits in the extroverted aspect. So, really open with his emotions, very high energy, very expressive. And I've got a 6-foot mandala mat. I stick it on the floor, and I had him stand on this particular quality. Okay, great, beautiful human being, really warm. Everybody loves him. Great. And then I had a young woman who was 99% measured, which is contains emotion, more serious minded, a little bit more reserved, quite cool, just as valuable. It's really important that, in a crisis, for example, we can just hold our emotions and have a handle on them. And I stood her on the measured part of the mandala, which is in the introverted aspect. So you've got, quite extreme responses. And we talked about it, and the young man was saying, I just said, have a conversation with each other. What's it like to be on the other side of somebody who is really big and bold and, expressive? And the young woman, I'll never forget it. She went, "You're my worst day, because
Oh.
when you're being you, I just want to run away because it's too much. Your energy is too much." And I watched this young man, bear in mind, 17, 18, go, "Oh, wow, wow." So me being me could potentially impact on other people in a way that's not helpful. And, the conversation continued, and this young man went, "And you're my worst day, because you don't give me anything. There's no feedback, there's no interaction, which makes me kind of get bigger, because I just want to, spitball and, have that
Yeah.
dialogue."
That back and
And the
forth.
young woman went, "Oh, okay, me being me could be somebody else's worst day. Well, that's interesting." So both of them knew what their own individual preferences were, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But then understood how those preferences might impact on others. So if we think about that, embracing diversity, moving into rapport, into co-creating results, and both of them, as the result of that session, went, sometimes I'm going to need to take a step forward to the other person, just to meet, to move
Meet
towards
in the
meeting them
middle.
halfway.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I've got goosebumps just thinking
Yeah.
about it. It was just profound. And I've been working with that young man since. The difference in him is astronomical. He
Right.
has really gotten a hold of his bigness, but is controlling it in a way that he's not denying himself who he is, but he's able to manage it in a way that it doesn't become overwhelming for other people. And I just, I've looked at his journey and I've gone, he's on the right track
Mm.
now,
Mm.
because at the age of 18, 19, to have that level of insight, experience, understanding, to be able to consciously choose his behavior as he moved forward, is like, you I he's a leader of the future. I can't wait to see what he does. I feel quite privileged to have been able to give that initial interaction, which is probably about 18 months ago, and now be in a coaching relationship with him, and just watching him continue to rise, because he's just totally gotten on board with who he is and
Mm.
how that interacts with the world. It's just, yeah, again, that was lots of words, but I just love it. I
Yeah.
just love turning the lights on, because
Yeah.
when you turn the lights on, you give people choice of what they do next.
Yeah.
And that's profound.
Yeah.
That's profound at any stage, but
Mm.
there's something about working with younger people that, for me anyway, it's like, let's see how many light bulbs I can turn on and build this momentum of really conscious young people to go out into the world and go, let's change things, because
Mm.
without talking politics, because we're not going to do that, we need yeah, the next generation are going to be the ones that shift things, I think.
Yeah.
Genuinely, I really do believe that.
Yeah.
And if I can help anybody who's working in that kind of space, adult or young person, but has, that dream of a different future, if I can help turn the light bulbs on so that they can really engage and contribute and impact in that kind of space, then yeah, I'll, without getting too deep and profound, and I'll die a very happy woman if I can turn on light bulbs that become a warm glow somewhere. That, I'm speaking very conceptually, but hey,
No,
that's
I think
that's
that's the
part
whole,
of who I am.
that's the nature of this podcast as well. Because I
Yeah.
think because you kind of like went straight to the last question, so I think we have to like backtrack a little different things, and
Oh, sorry.
no, that's okay. Never, don't apologize, because that was really beautiful. Because I think here's where I think a lot of people, not a lot of people, but some people may trip up a little. Okay, it's the fact of, why should I change? Why should I know?
Mm-hmm.
Why should I change? Why do I need to be other than who I am? And why should anyone else be anyone but themselves? And of
Mm-hmm.
course, this is the same kind of conversations that you get, whether in all of those places, right? Whether it is a workplace, whether it's within a team, whether it is a partnership within husband, wife, husband, whichever relationship it might be, parent to child, going, well, this is who I am for X number of years. Why should I change? And I kind of, I mean, I think you already kind of answered it, but I think that's kind of where I just want to pick at a little bit more.
You pick, really?
It is that podcast. We do that. We gotta pick. Because I think I want people to understand, why is it, by being more aware of themselves and being, I think, okay, maybe we discuss it from a different angle. What's the fear you think that people have to prevent themselves from, because that's what I think it is. I think by not changing, that's my idea, or my viewpoint, is that people don't want to change sometimes because it's unknown, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because this is what they've known, this is all they've known, and this is what they've always been. It's partly unknown, it's partly ego, like, why should I, why not them, I'm always compromising, that kind of thing, I'm always backing down. But I think that backing down is also seen as a thing of losing power, seen as fear, because they think without that power that they are powerless completely, when I don't think that's true at all. So yeah, I don't really know if there's a question in there. I think the question is kind of like hovering there.
It is hovering, and without putting you on the spot and exposing you too much, we've been through a Lumina Sparks experience,
Yes.
and you discovered some things that maybe you weren't fully aware of. For the benefit of your listeners, is that there are 3 different persona levels that are explored within the Lumina Spark system. So there's the underlying persona, you in your most natural state, the you that you don't put on, if you like. The everyday persona, so how you tend to show up on a day-to-day basis, you're putting your best face on, how you want to be perceived by the world. And then the overextended persona, so that's where you might flip into behaviors that aren't helpful. So for example, this was the piece of gold dust, the blind spot that I found, my overextended persona had a big spike out in terms of demonstrative. So if we think about the positive aspects of that quality, you know, expressive, communicating emotions, high energy, all good things. I don't want to change that about myself, right? But if I do that too much, as the system suggested that I did, then that demonstrative, that expression can become overbearing for other people, can become overwhelming for other people, can be too much for other people, that they switch off.
Yeah.
Now that's not helpful behavior.
Yes.
So if I give you some specific examples, I'm going to have to tell the story because I just think it's really funny. So I did my Lumina training. I went through the process in a group, and it was great. I was getting to know myself. I really liked the system. It was like, this is about 95% accurate. It was really, really freaky because it was like, how have you put me on a piece of paper in a way that I recognize myself with so much depth and nuance, right? So I was really engaged with the tool. And then it got to this overextended bit, so the behaviors that I do that are unhelpful, and this overwhelming or this overbearing spike out. And I sat there going, this isn't like me. What? I don't understand this. And I, marched up to the facilitator going, I don't understand this. You really need to explain it because I've been with you for the last, 4 hours or 5 hours or however long we've been here. And I don't do this. I don't speak over others. I'm not over enthusiastic. I don't talk so much that other people, can't get a word in edgeways and, I'm overwhelming. You need to really explain this to me. And he let me go for about 2 minutes. And then he went, Beth, you're doing it now. Well, I went very quiet and I went and sat in my seat and I sat there for about half an hour going, oh my goodness. Yeah, I was doing it then. And I was so unaware of it that was just an automatic response. And I sat there and I went, oh my God, where else do I do this in my life? Where does that demonstrative flip over into overbearing? And I identified it with this previous colleague that I've obviously already mentioned in the podcast, because he used to push me to the point where I just couldn't help but, right, you're going to hear everything that I've got to say now because you've not engaged with me at any level in our relationship. Thinking back to, that
the boy and the
young
girl.
man and the young woman. Yeah. He was the young woman. He didn't need to engage with me. He was, he was happy in his little shell. Oh, I'm being a little bit mean there, but anyway, you can hear it. So there's my overextended coming out going, I just need you to talk to me and tell me what I need to do. Anyway, so it's like, that was really unhelpful behavior on my part in my working relationship. Okay, I've got that now. That's useful. That's a useful piece of information that I've just discovered. The second place that I reflected on was within my marriage. I am no longer married. That's a story for another time. But my now ex-husband, he gave me feedback quite often that I never gave him space to speak. And as a professional facilitator who creates space for people to speak,
Yes.
I found that really difficult. And upon reflection, can see how him saying that triggered me to get even more overbearing and to speak. Well, of course I do. I'm a professional facilitator, etc. You can probably see it in my face. This much bigger energy, and that was quite a profound realization because the relationship with my ex-husband is still brilliant. He's an extraordinary man, but I've had to learn how to curb that behavior when we are interacting, even still, because he needs time to think and to process, not immediate responses, which is my preference. And then the third area, as I was sat on my chair being very sheepish after I'd been told by the facilitator, you're doing it now, was, oh God, yeah, when I get really passionate about something, I want the world to know about it, and I'll go and tell everybody about it, and that can be off-putting. And I sat there, and that was absolutely life changing for me. It was profound, because as soon as I saw that blind spot and the impact that that behavior had had within my personal, my professional, and my future life, it gave me an opportunity to go, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to change that aspect of myself so that I can have, I can be a better version of myself in the world and really amplify and increase my impact. And so my choice, you'll laugh at this, I don't know whether I've told you this before, but my choice was, right, when I get that like rush of energy that just makes my tongue want to get loose, I notice it, then I bite my tongue, like
Like
literally
literally.
to
Okay.
stop myself, literally to stop myself going into that, overbearing space. And then using the opposite side of the mandala. So the Luminous system, it explores the paradox between particular qualities. So demonstrative sits opposite measured. I think I mentioned that before in terms of, a cooler, calmer approach to things. So my choice was, right, notice the rush of energy coming to my tongue, bite my tongue, then breathe, use the opposite side of the mandala, that measured quality, bring down the energy, wait until you've just managed to get to a level that enables me to communicate what I want to say, but in a way that it's not so big that it's overwhelming or overbearing for other people. So coming right back to your question, it's not about changing who you are necessarily. It's about really getting to grips with behavior that maybe is unhelpful, or that maybe you're not actually, displaying in the world. So I'll give you a prime example of that bit too. I facilitated an online session yesterday, and somebody discovered that in their underlying, they were like 99% imaginative, a source of new ideas, a source of creativity, a source of thinking outside of the box. But in their everyday persona, so the persona that they bring to work, the one that the world sees, they were 3%. And the contrast was quite stark. And this woman was saying, I don't know why I do that. And actually, there's some real value to me bringing more of my natural self to the forefront, both for the benefit of me, but also for the other people around me and the work that I'm doing. So, yeah, it's not about changing who you are. It's about really owning who you are and making choices about it.
I think
Great.
the one, thank you very much for sharing all of that you did on your lessons. I mean, that's very private, so thank you for being so open and honest
You're
and raw
welcome.
about that. Um, I wonder for people who are also, maybe if there are any people thinking about it, why, I mean, okay, no, let's not talk that one first. You recently put up a post about the latest research on using Lumina Sparks in mental health correlation.
Yeah.
Can you share some of the insights that you got from that? Maybe
Yeah.
on what is the correlation and how can it help and things.
I can't give you all the technical aspects because just to let you know, in my Lumina Sparks profile, I don't have much of this, what they call the conscientious blue quadrant, which is the detail, the data, the technicalities. I'm far more about the intuitive, fluid approach to the world. So I'm just caveating that. But what I took away from the research, right, sorry, let me step that back again. So Stuart, CEO of Lumina, decided that actually he wanted to look at how well-being and mental health was being affected by COVID. Obviously, the world has been put into a pressure cooker, and it's impacting quite significantly on the way people are responding, because we're being restricted in movement, we're being, challenged, if you like, and those trigger buttons are being pushed.
Yeah.
And obviously it will be variable for individual people because we all have different responses. But one of the things that he, as a sort of a global output, has noticed is that people are retreating. So there's more of that introverted quality being played out for lots of different people, because we are literally,
Contained.
retreating and contained. Now, for some people, that's actually really great. I've found coronavirus quite fascinating, because for those who've got more natural introverted claims, this has actually been really good, because they're working from home, don't have to see lots and lots of people, can create a space that's calm and clear and not overly stimulating. For those who have more extroverted qualities and charge up in that social interaction space, it's really challenging, because they're having to play against type, which inevitably affects, mental health and well-being, and that's been really fascinating. I appreciate I'm only talking about the introverted and extroverted aspect, but I think certainly for your listeners, it's probably the easiest one to get your head around, because we're familiar with those terms. But it's been quite interesting to kind of consider what it means if we're playing against who we are, whether that's circumstantial, whether it's, a requirement of a situation, because that does impact on how we think and how we feel. And again, just, without wanting to get evangelical about the tool and do my overextended, passion, everybody should just do this system.
Everyone should.
There's something about well, they should. I do believe that, actually, but I don't want to say that out loud. I've just said it, haven't I?
Okay.
Because if people want to explore it, they'll arrive at the right thing for them. It's not about me saying you should do this. It's about me going, I believe in this particular personality profiling system against all of the other ones in the marketplace, and all of those have value, but this was the one that really spoke to me. But coming back to what I was just about to say about mental health, is the more we know about ourselves, the more we can then understand what is putting us in that pressure cooker, and how we might make new choices to rectify that. So again, another example, I said I sit in both of these aspects. I'm quite happy in my own company, and occasionally no, not even occasionally, I also need to charge up on conversations with others. And I was sat there this weekend going, I just need to see some of my people. I need to get out of my house. I need to just have people around me, because I've been in an introverted,
setup,
more boundaried setup, and it's like I've reached my limit on that side now, and I need, it's like all of this energy is beginning to bubble up, and I go, I just need somewhere to put it. Please, can I go and find some people to have a conversation with, or to engage with, or to dance with? I can't do that at the moment because of coronavirus. But knowing that has enabled me to not sink into something that is unhelpful.
Yes.
And you're gonna laugh. So it was Sunday evening that I really got to this, I just need to see my people, and I organized a road trip to go and see some friends, all within the socially distanced, isolated thing. Obviously the rules in the UK have changed now, so that's kind of been eradicated, but I took the steps to do what I needed to do. And I had a kitchen disco.
Nice.
Me and my son, we had a kitchen disco. It's like, I just need to move this energy out of my body, because if I'm trying to contain it, it's not going to work. So coming back to your question, the more we know about ourselves, the more we can manage those mental health well-being spaces in ways that work for us as individuals, and it will be different for each individual, right? I
Yeah.
think that answers your question. I'm sorry, I
No,
got a bit big then. I went on a little journey
we need to go
of
on
my own
journeys.
thinking.
No, we absolutely need to go on journeys of thinking, because I think the reason I really want to have these kind of conversations as well is that people are in this situation. Obviously, coronavirus is one thing, but I think it's always been throughout history. And obviously, as we've got into the information age, when we've come to like technology, Facebook, Instagram, instant gratification, all of that, we've gone into a circumstance where judgment is definitely a lot there. There's also
Yep.
the fact of our problem solving abilities are now more instantaneous, rather than, oh, we have some time to figure this out. It's like, no, I need answers like last 2 minutes ago, but you can give it to me right now. And that's going to cause people to get into obviously anxiety and feel off balance. And it's really about talking about balance at the end of the day. Like, we are going to be prone to certain tendencies, and that's all well and good. And if you can master how to use that in a way that is, as you said, you can work with many people, you can sort of build a great relationship with all kinds of people, and then you can make things happen with those people. Like, we are going to live in a better world. Like, those are your 4-step pyramids. Because I think on top of, with just behaviors then influence reality, and then your behaviors also, by influencing reality, this is also going to affect your own physical health as well, because it's all energy to a certain extent, obviously. If not certain extent, it's completely only energy, really, at the end of the day. So if there's no balance in the energy, if you're always going to be someone who goes pa 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 pa, I gotta get it, da, 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 you're probably going to run into some sort of organ related issue.
Yeah. You just doing that, it was like bah, bah, bah. Oh
yeah,
whoa, that's not sustainable. You need the bah, 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 we're going to achieve, and then we're just going to rest.
Yes.
And just recharge and refuel, and that be okay.
Yeah.
And I come back to that idea of permissioning again. If you know what your natural state is, then you can manage it.
Yeah, you can leverage that.
And yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry I interrupted
you.
No, then.
Not at all.
It was so stark, that ba 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 ba. It's like, oh god, yeah. And I know a few people like that, genuinely, who are so high energy.
Yeah.
And fueled up on that, and being in this particular coronavirus lockdown, in there, I'm thinking of one particular man that I am working alongside at the moment, and he is so high energy, and he's really struggling because he hasn't got the outlet in the ways that are comfortable.
Yeah.
And a bigger example, coming back to this idea of judgment, when the UK first went into lockdown and then came out of lockdown, there were lots of people pictured in the pubs in London, in really close proximity.
Yeah.
And I remember my initial response to that was judging and going, oh my God, these people, what are they doing? And then I put it into the context of, if they've been isolated for a prolonged period of time and actually need to charge up on other people's energy, I'm not condoning the behavior, because I think there is a responsibility.
Yes.
But I understood it.
Yeah.
And understanding it took the judgment out of it and gave me a better place to communicate from, in terms of what I was seeing.
Yeah.
That, that's a global or a bigger example. And I can give you another example. So my son, I haven't done a Lumina Sparks with him yet. He's only 14. He'll be 15 in November. But I think now I could probably predict where he's going. Yeah, I think I could probably predict where he's going to sit. But at the very start of lockdown, he really struggled, and I watched him go from an inflated balloon. He just deflated. Like, it was quite hard to watch as a parent, actually, because this naturally confident, vibrant, quite buoyant young man just shriveled. He won't like me for saying this, but hopefully he'll never see this. But he literally spent 3 weeks in his pants slumped on the sofa. And I was watching him going, oh my God, this is not good. This
Mm.
is really not good. And, apart from the mum thing that kicks in, which, the majority of your listeners will probably connect with, it was, I had to remove myself a little bit and go, okay, right, let's think logically. What is actually going on here?
Yeah.
What is he not getting that he needs? And I came to the conclusion that he's a bit like a puppy dog. He needs constant stimulation and play and connection with his mates. You
Mm.
know, he actually needs that for his well-being. My daughter's slightly different. She's a bit more like a cat, independent, feisty, comes for cuddles on her terms. Just leave it, let her get on with it. That's fine. Um, but my son, puppy dog, and needs that stimulation for his well-being. And it was quite a moment because I reflected on my own parenting style and went, I need to do this differently because my natural parenting style is not actually matching what he needs in this particular situation. I'm more like a cat, I think. It's like, leave me alone. I'll do my thing and then I'll come for cuddles when I'm ready.
Mm.
My son needed something very different, and
Mm.
and I stopped work. I made sure that I was focusing on his needs at that moment in time. Um, and as soon as the restrictions were lifted slightly, and he said, my mates are going out to the park, can I go? I said yes.
Mm.
Whether that was the right thing, in terms of the bigger
Yeah.
picture and coronavirus and thinking about the people in the pubs and me having that judgment, are people going to be judging my son because he's going out to the park? But I made the choice that actually, in this context, what he needs is interaction with his mates. And this is a slight compromise. He's going to be outside, it's not breaking the rules.
Yeah.
And this is a way to enable him to get what he needs for his well-being,
Yes.
and by default mine, because and you'll know, unless your
Yeah.
kids are well, you get the mum guilt thing going on.
Yes.
Yeah, that
Mm.
was a bit of a tangent, but I think a useful
Yeah.
um,
A point to draw on.
example.
Yeah, very much
Mm.
so. Because I think many people who are listening, especially, I think if you're thinking about why would this apply to me, I think if you're in a partnership, so if you're in a marriage or a long term partnership with another person, this is going to help because you're going to understand each other a little bit more and understand where you're also coming from a bit more and maybe how you can meet each other in the middle. It's kind of like a roadmap that way. If you've
Yep.
got a child, if you've got, and many people, many moms, right? I mean, my mom constantly still says it today, and I'm well into my 30s. But she'll just be like, I can't understand you. Yeah, because I'm not you. Or I can't understand your dad. Yeah, because you're not him. It's just very different people. And it
Yeah.
frustrates a lot of parents with their children. And it frustrates a lot of marriages or partnerships because you're not the same person. And I think by doing something like this, like you gave the example of the young man, like at 17, he's been given a toolkit to realize that these are his massive strengths, but these are where he can make some room for other people to go into the space with him. If he brings himself closer to the middle, then he can have a lot more things done productively together with people, not just in terms of productivity, but he can have a much more fruitful life because everything in life is work, right? You have to have conversations, you have to earn money, yes, you have to go from place A to place B. You are going to interact with someone from place A to place B. So if you kind of also can hold space with other people around you, carrying less judgment, being less in other people's spaces, or being a little bit more in tune with others if you're on the other side of things, where you need to see how others people's energies and bring yourself a little bit further into that space and saying, okay, I'm here, I hear you, I'm listening, even though I'm quiet, I'm still listening, I'm still piecing things together for you. We play to our strengths that way, and we also allow others to play to their strengths, and then by doing that we make magic.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. That's exactly it, because, you know, human beings play in relationship with others. It's, unless you're living in a cave, that is just it's a fundamental aspect of being human, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly what you've just said, that the more we can understand that, the more magic we can create. And just coming back to that idea of couples, you know, I've done a number of couples debriefs now, and the first one I did was probably February, March of this year, so just before lockdown. And I had a conversation with the wife of this particular partnership last week, and she was saying she and her husband are still referring to the insights that they discovered, because they are so very different. He's way more introverted, she's far more sociable, and actually the understanding of that has given them a common language to be able to go, this is what's going on for me right now, and this is what I need right now, and this is what I can't get right now. So how do we find that space in our partnership to be supportive in this particular scenario? You know,
Yeah.
it was quite a moment, actually, because I'm not going to name her, but she said her husband actually opened up a conversation saying, I know I don't talk about these things very much, but I think we probably need to. And she said, you know, I watched it on the screen. She said it was profound. That was
Yeah.
a really different set of behavior, because he was understanding that she needed that conversation.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I love this stuff. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, never apologize. No. I mean, I think we've come to a good point to maybe just wrap up this conversation. And you kind of talked about it already. But it's really, what is the shift that you really want to create in the world with your work, Beth?
Oh, that's a killer question to end on. My God. Oh, I think I'm still defining that, if I'm being truthful. In terms of where I am in my career, I'm at a pivotal transition point, because my daughter is 21. She's now left home. She's moved out. My son is 15. My hands-on parenting role that I've had for all of my adult life, again, for the benefit of your listeners, I was a teenage mum. So, you know, my daughter came when I was 19 when she was born. I was 18 when I fell pregnant. And so there is an emergent transitionary process happening for me as an individual, and really thinking about, okay, well, where do I want to put my mark in the world? Where do I want to really create an impact?
Yeah.
Because I've got space beginning to emerge to think quite strategically and with focus about what that is. But if I were to sum it up, okay, there are tears here, so I know I'm still working in the right space. It's about developing the leaders of the future. As I said, it's working with those 18 to 30. Well, no, it's not even an age thing. It's those people who can visualize and vision something different in the future, and are at the start of that journey and need a bit of help. No, help's the wrong word, but the right
Support.
foundations, the right support, the right environment to really make their vision flourish. And why do I want that? And this is where the tears come in, is because there will come a day when I'm not on the planet, but my kids are.
Yeah.
And I want to play my part in making sure that those who are safeguarding the planet are the kinds of conscientious, visionary, go get stuff done people that will oh God, real tears, that will make sure that my kids have an experience of the world that I want them to have. It's about me playing my part to gift a future to my kids when I'm not here. And I don't quite know what that specifically looks like, but that's the space. Oh God, real tears, blimey. That's the space I want to play in, because my kids are important, right?
Yeah.
They are Yeah. And I just want to safeguard their experience of the future.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really steaming up. Sorry. Safeguard their experience of the future and play my part to shift the current world setting, because I'm not sure I like it at the moment.
No, there's definitely a lot of room for improvement for sure in that respect in the current world that we're in today. And I think on that note, we will end today's conversation on that, because that was deeply profound. It was deeply, deeply raw. And I thank you so much for this wonderful conversation. I cannot wait for our next conversation, whenever that might be. So thank you so much.
I look forward to it. You are very welcome, my dear. Very, very welcome.